You need to find balance in the extremes. So the other day, I had a comment on one of my videos, and the podcast I was talking about, I'd rather risk taking it too far, rather risk giving it my all, than to look back on my life and regret that I didn't give enough. And during that one, I spoke about how the only regret I have in my life is not that I didn't make it in a certain field, but that I didn't leave it all out there, that I didn't actually give it my everything. I cruised, I coasted, I slacked off, and that's my regret. My regret is around the lack of follow-through, the lack of effort that I gave in that situation. As I said, I'd rather risk it all and risk too much and risk going too far than look back and go, I could have done more. And always wonder what would have been if I'd given more. And this guy commented, and I think rightfully so, like I agreed with him. He was like, I think as you get older, you'll look back and be like, I think that the relationships, and especially with your kids and family, are going to be more important than the goals and dreams that you are pursuing. And I said back to him, I was like, you're 100% right. When I was in my 20s, I didn't think that way at all. I didn't think that that would be a thing for me as such. I always wanted to be a father, but I was always like, no, I'm chasing these things. I'm chasing these big dreams, these big goals, these big ambitions. And that's all that matters. Now, when you have children, man, life changes. And look, I know that isn't 100% true, but I think if you are truly invested in your children, it does. Like, my kids and my wife mean everything to me. They are the most important thing to me. And that means blocking out time to spend with my children, blocking out time to spend with my wife, to make sure I am still allocating time and resources to be with them. But I don't think that means we have to stop chasing big goals and dreams. I don't think they have to be mutually exclusive. And I will openly admit that I am incredibly blessed beyond all measure that I have the capacity that I can do both. That the work I did in my 20s had paid off, and now in my 30s that I have 2 kids and a wife and all that kind of stuff, that I can have both. Because I spend 2 to 3 hours every single day with my children. I am blessed in the fact that more often than not, I get to be part of bedtime. And it still disappoints me to this day, the days that I don't get to be part of bedtime. It really, really upsets me on those days that I don't get to participate in bedtime. And I am blessed in that fact, but I play in the extremes. I'm still, like, as I said, I stand by my statement that I'd rather take it too far. I'd rather push too hard and have given absolutely everything than to look back and regret that not knowing what could have been. But people always talk about balance. And I don't think I've ever nailed the articulation on how I feel about balance. And I'm going to try here today. I'm going to see if I can get it out in the right fashion for you. But balance in my mind is bullshit. Because the analogy I've always really liked on this one is a balanced scale means 0. 0, 0 on each side. You know, that there's nothing going on. You don't want to live in balance. I think you want to live more in a pendulum swing. So you swing into the extremes. So when I'm working out, when I am pushing my body physically, when I'm challenging my willpower and my limits and all that kind of stuff, I am all fucking in. In that moment, this is where I'm at. And more it's about channeling presence and being in that moment. being the best version of yourself you can be right here, right now. And I think that applies to everything you do. But, so if we're talking the physical, the workout, all that kind of stuff, I am here, I am in this moment, I am focusing on every rep, every set, every muscle contraction, every squeeze, the whole 9 yards. I am here, driven and focused right here, right now. And that is what I'm working on. When I'm doing business stuff, I am focused, I am driven, I am doing that. I am in the zone on that. And whatever that might be, whether it's this business, building it for you, whether it's my gym, whether it's those kinds of things, I am doing the work, and that's all that there is right there, right now. But the same goes for my children. The same goes for my wife. I am 100% present. I'm putting my phone in another room. I am here and I am playing with them. I am present. I am participating with my wife. We are doing things together. We are having deep connection moments. And the balance isn't that, finding the balance between the life. No, swinging the extremes. So yeah, I get 2 to 3 hours every single day with my kids. And during those 2 to 3 hours, I am with my kids. I am doing that stuff to be present and with them. And that's, I think, a better view of balancing it, quote unquote, is to be extreme and be hyper present and focused when I'm doing that kind of stuff. Because I think that's where you gain the benefit from. I think a lot of the lack of balance or feeling connected or feeling like we have to choose one. I don't think you have to choose one. You have to choose in that moment one. I think we lose the thing when we are distracted. And I will, hand up, be the first one to admit that it has taken me a long ass time to truly connect with that, to truly be able to do that. Because a lot of the time, my mind is always racing on business. My mind is always racing around what could I do next? Where is the next thing? What's the thing I'm focusing on next? Maybe I could do this. Maybe I could try that. Maybe I could give this. Those kinds of things. And it takes a lot for me to pull out of that and be present and in the moment. Thankfully, I think children more than anything give you the in-depth ability to do that, because if you're truly playing with them, they demand your attention. It's hard to not be hyper present and hyper focused if you are actually playing with them and actually doing the work required. But this idea of that we can't pursue our goals and we can't pursue our dreams and all this kind of stuff because we need to have the relationships, I don't think is accurate. I do agree that if you sacrifice, especially children and the love of your life kind of thing, for those goals and dreams, you will severely look back on that with regret. I do agree that that is a fleeting moment. And it's something that I have really taken to heart. And it's the same advice I'd give to other parents and new parents and stuff as much as possible, that these moments will not last. In a blink of an eye, they will change. And look, I am barely down the road of parenthood. Like, my daughter's 4, my son's 2. But so much has shifted, so much has changed, and you will look back on the moments that were struggles and that were difficult and that really were awful, and you can't wait for it to be over and go, oh, I kind of miss those times. And the example I give on this one is, and I was at least aware enough to be aware of it in the moment, was my son never used to sleep through the night. He was a terrible sleeper. And up until probably like 3 months ago, it meant that either me or my wife had to sleep in the bed with him every night, the whole night. It was the only way that he would sleep through. And yeah, we tried the other things of like putting him down and then putting him back and all this kind of stuff. And we just got to the point where it was just, everybody involved got way more sleep if one of us just slept in the bed with him. And it wasn't great. Like, I'm not going to lie. It was tough. Like, he wiggles and he worms and he wakes up and he stirs, and it's not, indicative of an excellent night's sleep. But to be cognizant of how valuable and how special that moments were, that it isn't going to be forever, that this beautiful little child's going to roll over in the middle of the night and be like, "Oh, I love you, Daddy," and give you cuddles. That even though there were massive challenges going on with that scenario, there was still beautiful, beautiful moments, and they disappeared way too quickly. And I thought about it last night because for whatever reason last night he wouldn't sleep again, and he just wouldn't stay down in bed, and he asked me to sleep with him, and so I did. And there is something special about the safest way for him to feel safe and connected and for him to feel loved is for his dad to cuddle him to sleep. It makes you feel special. It makes you feel loved and connected, and that you are doing a great job. And so that's what I did. And no, it was not a great night's sleep. No, it was not the best. And yeah, I'm feeling it today. But I could take time to be appreciative of how incredibly special that moment was. But then I still got up this morning after all that and went to work. And once I was in the other mode, we're playing in the extremes again. I got to truly embrace and enjoy and be present and feel how blessed and lucky I am to have this perfect little child who loves me endlessly in that moment. And then I am blessed to get up this morning and be like, well, now I have to get to work. Now I have to do what is required from me on this other end. And I got to do that. And in those moments, I was hyper-focused as well. Now I'm driven. Now I'm in the moment. Now I'm doing the work. And this is what I mean when I talk about playing in the extremes. That I think a lot of it is about being the mental discipline and being present. I think a lot of people suffer from this and struggle with the quote-unquote balance because they're not detaching, they're not separating the things, they're not, here is my definitive line. And even within myself, I think I need to make much harsher clinical and divisions of, this is family time, this is my house, when I'm in here, I'm connected and I'm dad and, I'm a husband and this is where I'm living right now. And then when I separate and I go to work or I go to my office and I'm like, this is work time, and having these really clear separations. And I think especially as we've gotten into things like working from home and stuff like this, those lines are so heavily blurred now that we don't have an ability to separate them. And it is much harder to separate those divisions of what we're working on and what time it is and all that kind of stuff. And I talk about that you have to make the choices. That if you as a provider, which I have to assume that you're going to be, or at least wanting to be if you're here, that you have to look after you. You have to put you first so that you can do those kinds of things. I have to be in great shape. And I stand by it, and I always cop flack for this, but I fucking stand by it, that you as a father have a duty, an honor, and an obligation to be in great fucking shape. And now, great shape can vary. It doesn't necessarily mean a six-pack, but why the fuck not? But it does mean in great fucking shape, because you have to be able to do whatever your children want and ask of you. There is nothing, I feel, worse in this world than seeing the look of disappointment on your child's face because you said no, that you can't participate in whatever the game it is, whether it's climbing, running, jumping, lifting them up, carrying them, participating in the sport, whatever the fuck it is, not because you don't want to, but because you are physically incapable of doing it. And the other side of that is, if you're a great father and you're invested in your children's life, which I think we should be, and it's the point of being a parent, you should want to live for as long as humanly possible. You should want to look after your health and do whatever is required in that fashion so that you can be around for as long as possible. That was the trigger for me. That was what overrode my hypocrisy as being the fat personal trainer. It wasn't that I was in hypocrisy. It wasn't that, I went to work and told other people how to do things and then went home and did the opposite. It wasn't any of that, which is horrendous, and I will openly fucking admit that. But what it was that pushed me to actually make the change, to actually step up and become the man that I was supposed to be. And I'm not done yet. I'm not even by a long shot done yet, but I'm at least a hell of a lot further along the line than I was that I fucking love my children. I looked at my daughter and I was like, I want to be here for as long as humanly possible. And that was my first wake-up call. And apparently that wasn't quite enough. And then it's the same for my son. And he came along and I was like, I want to be around for as long as I can make it happen. I want to be around for as many birthdays as possible. I want to see my grandkids and my great-grandkids and however many generations of Farleys I can fucking live to see. I want to see it all. I do not want to miss out on a single moment of their lives because I couldn't make an adult decision. I couldn't make a decision to be the healthiest, fittest, strongest version of myself. That I chose dopamine chasing, that instant gratification, that I chose alcohol or junk food or sugar or whatever the fuck it is over being there for my children. That was the thing. Then it was unquantifiable to me that I could continue down this path choosing sedation and easy over being there for them. And that's what caused me to change. So yeah, I do believe that it's important to be present, to be part of your children and family's life, that you are around and you get to do the things. I think that's really, really important, and then you must map out time. But on the flip side, you also need to make sure that you are allocating time to look after you, to build those things, build the physique, build the mental capacity, build the discipline, build the business, build the money, whatever the fuck it is that allows you then to do those things to be the greatest version of yourself. You have to find and allocate time for both. And generally what I find is that you have the time, you've allocated it to shit that does not matter. We keep coming back to this idea. You have the time, you have the capacity, you have the ability, but what's happening is you are dedicating energy to shit that doesn't fucking matter. To TV, to social media, to porn, to alcohol, to junk food, to any and all of this stuff. You are wasting the time you could use for this. And so yeah, it means that I play in extremes. I get up at 5 a.m. and I work till 11. I come home and spend the middle of the day with my kids. And then usually I go back to work at about 4:30, 5 o'clock, depending on how my day has structured out. And I do that. And then I usually work till about 10 p.m. at night. But I've blocked out the times in between to make sure I have time with my kids every single day, that I spend time with my wife on the weekends, and we have proper adult time, and we have date nights and those kinds of things. We have time together. That is the swings. That's the pendulum swing that I think matters. But you can't then be like, oh, well, I chose to spend time with my family, but I died at 45 of a heart attack, or 50, or I can't actually get up and do any of the things that I want because, well, I'm spending time with my family. I think that is the ultimate disrespect to them. You are now blaming them for your inability to choose to do the adult things. You are blaming them for your inability to show the fuck up and do what is required. It's their fault because you spend time with them and you love them. Well, you know what? If you love them and that love means more than anything to you, make the hard fucking decisions about that and do what is required. Show them that you love them by being the greatest version of yourself. Show them that you love them by sacrificing shit that doesn't matter. Show them that you love them by showing up and giving effort. That's how you separate yourself. That's how you end up leading the best possible life. Then you don't get to the end of your life with regrets of what could have been, what should have been, what might have been. If you'd just given a bit more effort, if you'd looked after yourself a little bit more, if you'd just shown up as a better version of yourself. This is what separates. This is what makes a difference. So yeah, if you want to give quote unquote balance, I get it. You do need to look after the relationships. They are the most important thing in your life, and they are the things that will fuel you forward and give your life reason and purpose. But do it in the extremes. Make sure you don't allocate the time and for them and then neglect the other areas that allows you to show up for them as the best version of yourself. Start taking stock of how you're utilizing your time, and I would imagine wasting your time. And I was there as well. I've said it a few times at the start of phase 3 of 126 to greatness. My whole thing was to cut out everything that didn't serve me. One, it has been excruciatingly hard. Like, I have struggled like I've never fucking struggled with anything before. And two, it highlighted how much of the stuff I was wasting my time on. How much stuff was just pointless and useless and sedation and didn't serve me in any fucking way. It highlighted all the things that were not for my highest good, not for my best. And so I had to change. So I had to make a difference. I had to make a choice on what truly mattered. And no, that wasn't easy. No, it wasn't something I'm enjoying doing, but the separation between the two has been so abundantly worth it that I'm already seeing the difference, that it makes it worthwhile. So I'd rather find balance in the extremes and live the best life I possibly can than continue on living a quote-unquote balanced, but neglecting so many of the areas that are going to allow me to live this best life. So, as always, if you feel you are ready to also live life's in extremes, to show up as the best version for your family, to show up and show your love by being the best version you can be, the greatest version of yourself, shoot me a message. Let's get you into Chasing Greatness Daily. Let's start that process. Now, if you're not quite there yet, click the link in my bio, grab my top 10 tools to transform your mental toughness. And lastly, if this spoke to you, if you enjoyed it, if you know someone else who needs to hear this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. But most importantly, please hit that subscribe button, because the majority of people who are watching this are not subscribed to this. And it helps me, it helps you, it helps let the world know that this is something of value and you are enjoying this. And I don't want you to miss a single episode, because like Chasing Greatness Daily, I am here every single day delivering on this. This is one of those things that has to get done every single day. So I don't want you to miss one, because I'll be back again tomorrow. Until then.